Let's Talk is a series of interviews with remarkable Australians.
Yep.
Simply, it's been designed to normalise difficult conversations and aimed at helping the day-to-day challenges that many of us face.
Beautiful. It's pretty neat here. It's a bit intimidating, isn't it?
Ash Barty, Tigers supporter, former world number one, and three-time major winner.
Just imagine the types of things that have gone on in here.
But as successful and as brilliant as Ash has been,
It's pretty impressive, isn't it?
fear, anxiety and feeling external pressure affects us all. So, let's talk. Presented by AIA. Ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk.
Okay. There is an assumption, Ash, that when you're world number one and you're in control, you're without fear. Is that accurate or wildly inaccurate?
Absolutely untrue.
Yeah.
I think it's human nature, right? It's human nature that we're all fearful. It's an emotion. We're emotional beings. We're emotional beasts. And I think sometimes your biggest growth and where you find yourself is in some of the most scary moments almost. And I certainly had plenty of those in my professional career, maybe even more in my personal life, but it's certainly something that's very normal and something that I've learned to acknowledge, accept, and ultimately help overcome some of my biggest fears. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
So you're creating a scenario in your head, building up the fear. That seemingly is what most of us do all of the time. We're creating scenarios that don't exist and crippling us.
Yeah, and I think it's an emotion, right? It's an emotion that we all have, all human beings have. And as I've learned through my journey, I think there are only really two types of emotions. It's love and there's fear. They're the different sides of the same coin. And I think overall, every other emotion that we fear in our lives are just derivatives of those two emotions, whether for love, it's excitement, happiness, joy, curiosity, and the fear can be anxiety, anger, uncertainty. But they're all the same derivatives of those two words, in a sense of being able to understand that when you can, I suppose, acknowledge that they're emotions and acknowledge that's how you feel, they no longer consume you. They no longer control you, and all of a sudden you have the choice to think, no, I don't have to be scared. I don't want to be scared. I'm excited. And you can see the different side of the opportunity.
So how do you go from having the fear to being able to control the fear?
I think it's the acknowledgement. It's the acknowledgement and it's the acceptance of going, this is normal to be emotional. And ask yourself the question, how am I feeling right now? What emotion am I feeling right now? And as I sit in this chair, there is fear. Fear to being vulnerable and open and to letting people in. But then I also sit here and go, well, it's not fear, it's excitement. I'm excited to sit here and share my story and talk about something that is normal for so many people that I know you would have fears. There would be moments in your life where you're excited, you're anxious, and you go, well, which one is it?
Yep.
For the same scenario, the same situation, whether it's walking out onto centre court in a big match, am I anxious? Yes, but I'm excited. And you go, which one am I going to choose today? Which one will I choose to empower myself? And I think when you can really acknowledge and have those conversations with yourself in a sense of, this is how I feel, I'm going to accept it, now I get to choose, and that gives you power.
So when you're 18 and you decide to retire and no one really sees it coming other than those really close to you, it's an unbelievably difficult thing to verbalise because everyone thinks, you're living your dream, what are you doing? Only you know. That's one of the pieces I think that we all miss. What everyone else wants is largely irrelevant. What I want is not going to be the popular decision sometimes, but I need to verbalise it. How hard was it to say to the world, I'm done for a while?
The world was easy. It was those that were around me the closest that was the hardest.
Right.
It was teary, it was sad, it was scary. I felt like I was letting people down. And I think those that were around me and closest to me wrapped their arms around me, which of course they were going to do. They loved me. They had, it really didn't matter what I was doing in my life. They loved me for me, and that was probably the realisation where I thought, hold on a second, I don't need to do this for everyone else. I get to do this for me. And that just created and almost manifested some of those good thoughts and some of that happiness, that excitement, the curiosity, the wanting to learn, and the side of the coin that is love. and all of those fun things, and it almost being able to feel those emotions and acknowledge those emotions allowed me to feel empowered to actually make my own decision and do it for me and not for anyone else.
So when you were feeling fear and legs were heavy and there was a tension, when you came back and unretired and you got to know yourself better, serving for Wimbledon or Roland Garros or the Australian Open, are you still feeling the same as you step up to the service line but deal with it better?
Absolutely.
Right.
And each time you deal with it better.
Right.
I think the French Open is a very different emotion to Wimbledon, and again it was a different emotion to the Australian Open. But I think as well through my journey how much I've grown and developed as a person in those few years, and then as an athlete I grew and developed even more. But I think back to some of the most probably anxious or fearful moments is where those same tendencies of distractions, those extrinsic comments or whatever it is, it's judgment from the outside, it's people doubting you, it's noise.
They'd affect you?
They were massively so. I think back to early in 2021 where there was plenty of noise about is Ash really the best player in the world? Does she deserve to be number one in the world? Naomi's just come off winning 2 slams. What's going on here? She didn't play all of 2020. And that made me angry. That really made me angry. It pissed me off because I said, I know I'm the best in the world. And you know what? I'm just going to so prove it to you in these next few months. I'm going to show you why I'm the best. And I think it was a distraction, but it became a fuel because I looked at it and I'm not going to look at this as a negative. This is going to make it the most positive emotion I can feel. And I'm just going to go, you know what? Screw you guys. I've got this. I know that I've got this. And make it a really, I suppose, a way that almost empowered me even more
Stimulus.
To be better. Yeah, like sometimes we all need a bit of a spur on. I was no different.
What's the darkest place you went to when you were at your most anxious or your most vulnerable with the sport?
Instantly, I think to 2018 Wimbledon against Dario Kasatkina, 3rd round, and that match for me represents a lot that happened in my career, and that match for me reflects the two sides of the coin, the two wolves, as I called them when I was on the court, which was the good wolf and the bad wolf. The good wolf is love, it's happiness, it's excitement, it's curiosity, it's carefree. The bad wolf is anger, stress, distraction, extrinsic things going on. And that day, I chose to feed the wrong wolf. I chose to feed the bad wolf in a sense of I let those emotions completely override me in that occasion. I let a simple split moment, one error, one decision, I let those emotions completely take over and completely self-sabotage. And in the most public of settings, in the most beautiful, iconic tournaments, it was my most shameful moment because I let those negative emotions completely overwhelm me. And looking back now, it's the most important, perhaps maybe pivotal match of my life in a sense of failure and growth. But it's also, it's still to this day my most shameful moment on a tennis court.
So what happens the next day after the most shameful moment? How do you get up again?
There's the acknowledgement of this is what happened, this is how I behaved. There's the question I ask myself of why. Why did I make that choice? Whether it was an overwhelming feeling, like was I overwhelmed on the court? Was I tired emotionally, physically? What was it that forced me to make that choice, or why did I make that choice? Then there was a very difficult part to accept it, and I'm not sure I did that straight away. That took time, that took a lot of time, and I was probably able to accept it in a sense where I knew I had to change something. Did I fully accept it in that moment? Probably not, but I accepted that I knew I needed help. And I accepted that I knew I needed the tools and the ability and to learn a part of my craft that enabled me to, when that moment came again, to choose the better side, to choose the good side, to actually have the tools to make the decision in a positive way. And that was enter Ben Crowe. That was enter a drastic change in how my whole team operated, how we communicated, how we were more open with each other, how we were more honest. And ultimately, that was the beginning of my success. Not on the tennis court, but also in a sense of fulfillment, and knowing that the happiness and the love side of the coin was completely dominating, which was great. That's all I wanted to do. That's why I love the sport. That's what Ash Barty, the 5-year-old kid, wanted to do. I wanted to love the sport. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to be curious. And without that match, without that decision that day of feeding the bad wolf, I never get to explore the rest of my journey. And it was, probably wasn't until I actually sat down when I retired and reflected and wrote the first chapter of that book where I thought, I'm at ease with it now, because I understand now that it's a part of my journey.
The match with Daria?
Yep. It was a part of my journey. It was a big part of my journey, but connecting the dots along the way, I did learn from it, and I did accept it. So now I can close it and go, it was actually one of the most important days in my life.
And someone who helped shape you with all this stuff was Ben Crowe. One of the Croweisms is change a letter, change your life.
Yep.
You know it well.
I do. A very simple one, a simple word, phrase change, and it's opportunistic almost. And a very simple one is changing the word have to get. I have to walk the dogs. It feels like a chore. It feels like something negative.
Yeah.
I get to walk the dogs. It's an opportunity. Instantly, it changes the way you say it. It changes the way you view it. And that choice in changing that word makes such a difference. And I think when you genuinely start to change the way you speak, you change the way you feel, you change the way you act, and you ultimately change everything in your life, I believe.
I mean, the world throws all sorts of scenarios at you every day. Up to you how you deal with those. Yep. Are you a victim, or is there an opportunity? Correct. And that's this whole challenge we all have.
And I think I'm a genuine believer in it starts with the emotion. Yep. And it starts with those two sides of the same coin. And you can view an opportunity, love, as something exciting, or you can have a scary, consuming moment that can be negative.
Yeah.
And the most obvious for me as a tennis player was centre court, big match. I'm anxious, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. So before I walk out onto the court, which emotion will I choose? Will I choose to be excited and see it as an opportunity? Or will I choose to be anxious and feel stressed or concerned and be negative? So it was a genuine choice. Before I stepped over that white line, which emotion do I choose today?
So Ash, with the coin, two sides, always following your heart, choosing love. Have you ever gone down that path and it ended badly?
Plenty of times.
Right.
Plenty of times. And I think that's where the choice of the emotion is more important than the result.
Yep.
And that was often in a tennis match, is the most probably public way of my journey. And even when I make good choices on a tennis court and positive choices, I can't guarantee the result. I can't guarantee that it's a positive outcome. But what I can guarantee in making those positive choices is that I'll know I gave it a crack, I gave it my all, and I can walk off the court being happy. And of course you're going to be disappointed in the result, but you'd be happy in your effort and your accountability and the choices that you made. And I think that became the most important part of my tennis career, is that regardless of the win or the loss, the uncontrollables, what I can control are the choices that I make. And when I made those good choices and when I made the positive choice, more times than not, the result is a positive one. But you can never, ever guarantee that. You can never guarantee anything in life.
Yeah.
Everything can be taken away from you very quickly. There's so much unpredictability and uncertainty. And I think for me, the certainty and the things that I can control came in the choices and the choices of whether it was an action, a feeling, emotion, anything. That was what I focused on and tried to understand that the result just is. It's neither here nor there. It's good nor bad. It just is what it is.
Fail making the right choice.
Correct. Fail the right way. And I think that's an important learning for all kids as well. Every time you make a choice in your life, there's a consequence, and it's understanding that I shouldn't be emotionally attached to the result. It should just be, did I make the right choices? Did I make the right choices for me? Tick, tick.
Yep.
It was a good choice. The result maybe just didn't quite work out how we'd hoped.
Yep.
And as athletes, that's where you're thrown into the cauldron a little bit, and the results, the consequences are very public, but you have to remove yourself from those consequences and understand that your fulfillment, and certainly my fulfillment, came from the choices, not the result.
Do you know what's next? I know that junior's coming, which is incredibly exciting, but is there a great excitement in the unknown for you?
There is now. There is now, and I think I used to be really fearful of that. I used to be terrified of not being able to know exactly what was happening. I'm a very structured person in that sense. I like to be in control of things, and surrendering that control to things that I know that I can't make a difference to, was terrifying. But all I can do is control this moment that I'm in right now. What choices will I make today that will ultimately make me a happier, better person? And down the track, wherever my path leads me, will always be where I was meant to go. And I have absolutely no idea what comes next for me and for us as a family, as a unit, for the people around me in a professional capacity as well. I have no idea. And I used to be terrified of that, and now I'm excited.
Yeah.
It will always be one coin, and it's just choosing which side of the coin you flip over and wake up that day.
It's great to see you happy, and thanks for talking.
Love it. Thanks, Ham.
Look happy.
I am happy. I'm very happy. Happy as I've ever been.
It's a good place to be.
Yep.
For more Let's Talk interviews, please visit afl.com.au/on-demand and search Let's Talk, or visit aia.com.au/Let's Talk. And the conversations will also be available wherever you access your AFL podcasts. And if you're experiencing mental ill health, we do encourage you to reach out for support. That support may be from family, friends, your GP, or a mental health professional. You can also seek further information and advice from the free and confidential support services listed on the Mental Health and Wellbeing Hub at play.afl/clubhelp.